Kutchins, Adler, the Buttery babe. Welcome to my kitchen. Today we are going to make my most famous kugel. Kugel means pudding, which was also the name of my last dog. But it's really any sweet or savory dish, and it's delicious. The first thing we're going to do before we get anything else started is melt our butter. So in my little pan, I've got a stick and a half of butter. I'm going to put that on low to melt, and then we're going to start with everything else. Okay, now to the ingredients. As I discussed already, we have a stick and a half of butter. In this bowl, I have 1 pound of egg noodles that I've already cooked and cooled with some cold water. They're the wide egg noodles. I have made this with campanelli or different noodles, but these are the best ones, I think. So that's 1 pound of cooked noodles. We have 6 large eggs. In this bowl, it doesn't look adorable, but it is. I've got 1 pound of cottage cheese and 1 pound of sour cream. Those are both full fat. This is not the time to put yourself on a diet. This dish is traditionally made for mourning. Food brings comfort to the people who are grieving. Do not put them on a diet. They can have water on their own time. Besides those ingredients in the batter, we're going to do 1 cup of granulated white sugar. We have 1 cup of brown sugar. I like dark brown sugar because it has better flavor. We've got a tablespoon of cinnamon, a tablespoon of vanilla extract. Of course, we'll have a healthy pinch of kosher salt. And then pecans. Pecans are going to go on the top, which is really the bottom. I went through the bag and picked out the most perfect ones. So, in our family, this is called Shiva Kugel because it's designed to bring to people who just lost someone in the comfort of the heavy carbs and the sugar. It brings a little bit of joy in a time of sadness. This is my grandmother's recipe. The only thing I changed is I put in 6 eggs and she only put in 4. I like it a little bit more custardy. This kugel is also special because of the pan it's made in. A lot of the times we'll make a kugel in like a 9 by 13 Pyrex pan or a baking dish. This one is baked in a Coke pan. She called it a ring pan. They're not made very often anymore. If you have a bundt pan, it'll work perfectly if you have the bigger 12-cup size bundt pan. Not real intricate in the pattern though, because you're going to see how it gets. But also, you could do, I've done it in an angel food pan. It was very, very tall. Still worked out nice. Or you could do it in a casserole and then just flip it out before you serve it. Now let's make the batter. So as I said, we've got 1 pound of cottage cheese and 1 pound of sour cream. To that, we're going to add the 1 cup of sugar, the pinch of salt, a tablespoon of cinnamon, everybody in, and the tablespoon of vanilla. And then we're just going to put in the eggs. It'll take just a second. My mom always taught me to crack the eggs into a separate dish. Back in the day, they were doing that to make sure it wasn't a fertilized eggs, which you could tell if it had a red speck. But also it makes it easier nowadays, in case I get a little piece of shell in there, it's easier for me to retrieve it out of the dish than if I was trying to get it out of my whole mixing bowl full of goodies. So we just crack each one and look at it. The butter's melted, so I'm going to turn that off and bring it on over to the counter. It's going to chill there for a second. And I'm going to finish with my eggs. It's 4, 5, perhaps. And see how there's a little piece of shell in there? Now I can just get it out instead of having to go through the entire batter. And the last, but certainly not least, eggy number 6. Beautiful. So we just take that in our whisk. I like to pop the yolks, but I'm kind of weird about that. And then we're just going to give it a mix. The cinnamon, it makes the house smell really, really fresh and delicious. While we're mixing these things all together, you want to make sure that your oven is preheated to 350 degrees. Some people like to put raisins in their sweet kugels. Some people like pineapple, cornflake crumbs. I like this one. This is my favorite. My husband asked me to make this for him, like as a special treat. No, something bad has to happen before you need this. But I will say it's delicious if you're hosting a wedding shower or a baby shower or even just a really nice brunch. It's beautiful in presentation and in flavor. Also freezes really nicely if you want to make it. And then we're going to get the pan ready because there's one more step. So as we discussed, the cocoa pan, and this was a stick and a half of butter. You're not going to put it all in there because that's a little much, but pour about a quarter of the butter in there, and then just take your little pastry brush and brush all over the butter. You want to make sure you get every surface or that cocoa is not going to come out of the pan. And it's also important to remember that you need to brush the inside surface of the ring, not here, but here, because the cocoa will stick there as well. So everything's brushed beautifully. And as you can see, there's a little bit of butter still at the bottom. That's perfect because that's going to be the glue for our brown sugar. And actually, if you put it on pause for a second, I'm going to come make the rest of it on. So we just switched directions a little bit so it'll be easier for the camera to take. So we've got a little bit of butter still in the bottom of our pan, and this is a cup of brown sugar. If you only have light brown sugar, use that, that's fine. I just like the dark brown sugar. And now we're just literally going to crumble it up and evenly distribute it all the way around the bottom of the pan. In the original recipe, we melted the brown sugar in with the butter and then poured it in. I always felt like it would wiggle out of the way and not be where I left it. This is a lot of sugar. If you want to cut down, please feel free. Don't cut it out the way though. You need at least half a cup. I like the full cup. So you can see that's evenly distributed, and now we're just going to take our little hands and pat the brown sugar down. And I find it easier to make like a C and pat it down. I like because my hand doesn't fit in there. Even though I have a little hand, just doesn't fit inside the pan. Now we're going to make the garnish, which is pecans. I go through the bag and pick out all the perfect pecans first so that I know I have enough. It takes about 35 pecans to do my pan. So see how this side is rounded? The rounded side is going to go down into the brown sugar so that in the end, when we go to slice it, the pretty side is up. And we're going to go all the way around, making a little crown of pecans all the way around, and it comes out really pretty. If you don't like the futziness of going through and picking out all the pecans that are pretty and turning them over, you can take chopped pecans and sprinkle them over the brown sugar and then push them in. It's not how I do it, but I guess you could. It will give a crunchy top, but it's not right. And that's, I'm putting each one, flipping each one over, and then just pushing it lightly into the sugar so it stays in place. So as I said, this is my grandmother's pan. As far as I know, there are 6 of them. I have 3. My oldest sister Amy has 1, and my mom has 2. And they're amazing. They hold the cocoa recipe perfectly, and they've got lots of stories behind them. We're almost done with our pecan crown. It does take a minute, but the recipe itself is pretty easy. There's only a few ingredients mixed together, and then away you go. Because you can actually, when you boil the noodles, turn the oven on to preheat, and then it's all very fast after that. Okay, so there you go. The pecan, brown sugar, and butter crown that's going to make the delicious, crunchy, gooey amazingness topping on your cocoa. So I'm going to put that down. You need to cook this on top of a baking sheet because it will become a mess. If you want to line it with tin foil or parchment, go ahead. It'll just make cleanup a little bit easier. So remember, we started with a stick and a half of butter. Some of it's in the pan already. The remaining butter, we're going to pour it into the batter. and just whisk it so it incorporates in with the cottage cheese and the sour cream and the eggs and the sugar, cinnamon, all those goodies. Mixy mix. So pretty, so delicious. Oh my goodness, I can't wait. And then you're gonna put in the 1 pound of cooked egg noodles that were rinsed with cold water, because we actually don't want that starch holding them together, and we want them to stop cooking. You don't want to put hot noodles in the batter because it gets really weird. I like to use a spatula and just fold it all together. Can't really break the noodles, but you want to make sure, so you don't have to be gentle, but you do want to make sure that everything is coated, because they're the rigid noodle. They don't have ridges, but they twist a little bit, so it'll hold on to the delicious batter. You just make sure that everything is nice and moist and covered. Takes just a second to do it the right way, but you will be so happy with the results once you're done. Okay, almost ready. I hear my grandmother saying that I've done something wrong in my head, but that's all right. I know it's going to be delicious. Now the fun part. We're all mixed together. We've got our pecan brown sugar crown. Now we're going to take our bowl. This is really heavy. And rest it right up here and start scooping stuff in. If you're not comfortable doing that, scoop, scoop, scoop by yourself. This is just how I like to do it. Okay, so all the whole batter is in. We're just going to take our spatula and gently even it out. It does not need to be perfect. Don't worry about it. It'll still taste good. And then you want to take it and lift it up and bake it. It helps get out any air bubbles and make sure that everything is down towards the pecan crown. We're going to slide this into a 350-degree oven where we'll cook for an hour and a half. It's a long bake. About 45 minutes through, you want to open the oven door and just swirl the cocoa so it's turned around and can brown evenly. Again, that's 350 for an hour and a half. We'll see you soon. Hey, it's Kutchins Adler, just taking my delicious Shiva Kugel out of the oven. It's been in there at 350 for an hour and a half. I'm going to turn the oven off and slide this beauty right out. Look at that. It's magnificent. So you can see the noodles are golden brown. We've got little crunchy parts, little brown sugar coming to take a peek at us. You need this to rest for at least 15 minutes before you turn it out. You need it to rest for at least 15 minutes before you turn it out. And I like to turn it out onto a serving platter. This one happens to be the bunny's grandmother's serving tray. That's my grandma's recipe, his grandma's platter. So you're going to let it set for 15 minutes. But if you want to serve it today, let it sit 15 minutes and then serve it tray. If you want to serve it, next week, you're in a big rush, you can let it cool down to room temperature and then wrap it in tin foil and then put it in the freezer for up to 2 months. And then you can defrost it overnight in the fridge, reheat it in the oven, and away we go. I'm just going to grab a small knife to make sure we get this thing out, and I'll be right there. Well, and you can see where it's pulling away, so it's happy. I'm just going to take my paring knife, which is giving me no resistance, we're lucky, and run it around the outside edge and the inside edge. Perfect. And I have very high temperature resistance. You'll probably want to use your oven mitts. But we're going to take our serving platter and flip it upside down. And then we're going to dot it. So let's all hope we have a kugel. Okay, time for the big reveal. Wow. Oops, we missed a few pecans. Don't worry, just stick your little hands back in there and put them back where they belong. So you'll see you've got beautiful pecans, you've got a lovely golden crust and the brown sugar, and then see how firm but soft that is? This is gonna slice like a dream and serve even better. Perfect for a family that's in mourning, a fancy brunch, a wedding shower, a baby shower, or if you really, really love your husband. Again, I'm Emily Kutchins Adler with my family recipe for Shiva Kugel. You can catch me on Instagram, YouTube, and of course my website, www.thebutterybabe.com.